Hey guys, this is Lovely, and welcome back to Infidelity and Confidence Rebuilding 101. We're still in week 3, and we're talking about rebuilding trust in yourself. The sub discussion that we're going to be talking about today is how betrayal affects self trust. And when we are talking about the nuanced way that people are gaslit into really believing that somehow betraying someone is not a big deal. Like somehow, if you're in a relationship and you betray the person, it's not as big of a deal as if it's your boy or your friend or if it's your homegirl, which is insane. It really is insane. Flip side to that is that it's amazing how if a friend betrays you, you'll drop them. But if a intimate partner betrays you, we think about it. So let's talk about betrayal, right? Because we want to get to how betrayal affects self trust and the path to rebuilding self trust. It's so huge. So, betrayal is a deeply wounding experience that doesn't just break trust in others, it fractures trust in oneself. Whether it's a partner's infidelity, a friend's deception, or a loved one's dishonesty, betrayal can leave you feeling disoriented, questioning your judgment, and struggling to reconnect with your sense of self. This is one of those lessons that I just I love reading what I wrote because I was very intentional about making sure that we include all parties of the betrayal, right? Everybody makes the assumption that betrayal just is an intimate act, that somehow the platonic relationship is not as important as the intimate relationship. And for me, I think that the platonic relationship is so much more important than the intimate relationship because that platonic relationship has to stand on a foundation that doesn't have any, it is intimacy. There can be intimacy within your platonic relationships, but it's such a pure friendship intimacy where you get to share your thoughts, your feelings, your wants and desires, but there is no incentive to be physically connected other than a hug sometimes. And you better warn me before it happens because anybody who knows me knows that the minute you start hugging me, I'm like, ooh, who died? It's just crazy. One of the most insidious aspects of betrayal is how it undermines self trust, the very foundation of confidence, decision making, and emotional well being. Rebuilding this trust takes time, intentional effort, and self compassion. So let's discuss the ways that betrayal erodes self trust and provide actionable steps to restoring it. I know that for me, betrayal kind of, it is one of those things that I had to learn how to I had to learn how to build emotional intelligence to be a part of the conversation, right? If you are a fact driven person, a logic driven person, if you are a facts person, when betrayal happens, it really shakes you because now you have to not only contend with the facts being the facts, your emotions or the emotional response that you want to give may be very harsh compared to what the betrayal is, like how it works itself out. But there are some people who's like betrayal is betrayal. Other people it's like it depends on the situation. So that's why it is so important to have these conversations because there will be times where betrayal happens and you have to decide, was it betrayal or misunderstanding? Was it betrayal and was it intentional? Like we have to have these very open conversations about what betrayal looks like to us. And that's why it's always great to have conversations about what does communication look like within that relationship, because every relationship that you have will have a different communication style. And that's why I talk about what it looks like to speak multiple languages. Every person that you speak with speaks such a different self self-focused language, and you have to learn how to deal with that language and learn how to understand that language so that you guys can communicate with each other in a healthy way. So how does betrayal erode self-trust? I was like, I got a couple things, but all of them have curse words in it. And they was like, that's not what we're talking about in this video. I said, oh, that's interesting. So self-doubt and second guessing. After experiencing betrayal, many individuals find themselves stuck in a cycle of self-doubt and overanalyzing, right? How didn't I see this coming? Was I ignoring red flags? Am I too trusting? Am I too naive? Was I not vigilant enough? I thought that I was paying attention. Maybe I didn't see what I thought I saw. Is it me? Maybe I'm overreacting, right? And this self-questioning can feel endless. Like, I used to think to myself, yo, I can't stand the middle of the night, because in the middle of the night, when there's nothing for me to focus on, I can come up with the most intellectual questions, the most erroneous thoughts in my head, the most disturbing situations I could come up with that made me just feel like it was difficult to not only trust other people, but it was difficult for me to trust myself. And it made it so that the only decisions I felt comfortable in making were decisions for my children's well-being. Everything else I had to really focus on and really find stable ground, right? It was the fear that I was going to misjudge another situation or another person. And I had to really, I sat in that pain for a very long time because to I didn't want to tag people with the wrong characteristics. I didn't want to cause somebody else discomfort because I was going through something and I was going to rage out. I was going to crash out and attack other people when it wasn't their fault that any of these things were going through. And so I really had to work on that part, right? The self-doubt and the second guessing. And number two was disconnection from intuition and inner voices. Man, that second guessing have you like, am I thinking the right thing? Did I really feel like that? Was that me or was that fear? Was that me or was that insecurity? Was that me or was that self-doubt? What was that me or was that anxiety? Like, was that my intuition or is that like, I don't know. I don't trust what I'm thinking right now, because not only is anger and grief fighting with each other, and yes, anger is a part of grief, but no, anger was having a fight with grief because we ain't gonna grieve this shit. And then grief was like, yo, I'm gonna win out anyway, but go ahead and make yourself tired, right? But before betrayal, you have to rely on your gut feeling, your emotional intuition that helps guide your decision making. And when trust is broken, it can cause a sense of like inner dialogue where you don't feel like you can rely on your inner voice. You don't feel like you can rely on your intuition, and you start to like ignore the instinct to pay attention. You start ignoring the instinct because really what you're doing is that you're running from the pain. You're running from the hurt. You're trying to figure out how to distance yourself from the pain, because it's like when you're going through a situation like this, it's like you hit the beehive and you're trying to figure out where you need to run in order to stop being stung by bees. And it is absolutely the pure panic that you're in will have you, the panic that you're in will have you making decisions and then questioning those decisions. and then pivoting from those decisions and then winding back up at that decision and then having to think about that when you can't save your life like that. Like you can't save your life in a square. You have to figure out how to get further and further and further away from the initial site of the beehive, right? And that can be very difficult when you keep second guessing yourself. And this disconnection is partly harmful because intuition is built throughout life's experiences, right? So I always think to myself, is this my intuition or is this fear talking? My intuition is me. It's led by me for the good of me to make sure that I am in a happy, clear space where I am healthy and fed and calm and peaceful, right? But it also lets me know, hey, we're in danger. We need to get somewhere that works well for us. But fear will pretend like it is intuition. And self doubt will pretend and has characteristics that you would think were a part of intuition, where it's like, oh, my intuition's telling me that, I shouldn't even be making a decision about this right now. Your intuition would never tell you to not make a decision. Your intuition is absolutely stepping up to tell you that we have things that we need to discuss about the situation that we're in. And all of these things are needed. It's not a as needed. These are things that are needed. Your intuition is not set in initially to make you afraid of anything. It's to make you aware. It's so that your spirit, it lets you know that your spirit is in on high alert. We have things that we need to focus on. There are certain situations, there's a certain energy in here that we need to pay attention to so that we can figure out how to be safe. Where fear and self doubt really has a lot of questions added to it. Intuition usually there's no question, it's a statement. This is in a safe space for us. Fear and doubt, is there a space for us? Should we be in here? Should I be talking to this person? Should I be seeing this person? Intuition is like, we shouldn't be here. We don't need to talk to this person. It's time to go. Like, or we need to sit here and talk to this person. We need to figure out what's going on. You don't need to go anywhere. Like that, your intuition works. She is very steadfast in what she does. Doubt and fear, they running around in a circle, got you looking crazy, all of that thing on time. So I want us to know that when it's doubt or silence, it becomes harder to, when there's doubt or silence, it becomes harder to navigate relationships and life uncertainty with clarity because there are no conversations happening. Fear sometimes shuts you down. Sometimes fear makes you run. For me, you got positive fear, negative fear. I can almost tell you that when I'm fearful, I'm going to plow through that thing. Hopefully it's not a person because that sounds like going to jail, but I'm just saying, like, fear really, it ignites something in me because I don't like when people try to scare me. That is absolutely not my space. I am one of those people where the minute you start trying to scare me, I know that you're scared. And now I got to figure out what I need to do to get away from you because fearful people do things out of desperation. Fearful people or people in fear do things out of desperation. And I don't need to be around people who are doing things out of desperation. That's how you wind up in situations that sometimes you can't walk away from. The third thing, fear of vulnerability and emotional guarding. That was absolutely me for quite some time because betrayal often leads to hypervigilance. I was at the top of the tower. Bifocals. I was looking. I wanted to see telescope. Who's coming? Stay away. I was sending off warning shots. Don't touch these waters. I don't have time. I need you guys to stay away from me. I'm protecting myself, right? I'm protecting myself because I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. And I don't have time to take care of your feelings and my feelings. I don't even have time to deal with my feelings. I would like to um take these feelings away for 200, Alex. No, okay, that's what I was trying to do, right? And it was consistently being on guard to protect yourself from future pain, but you have to go through the pain to heal. You have to understand that in order to fully get to a space where healing can begin, you have to grieve the loss of that thing. You have to understand that excessively guarding your emotions will prevent you from connecting with anything else, including yourself. And that can be a very hard road for many people, especially going through infidelity, especially if you are in a place of self doubt and a place where you don't trust your own voice, right? So you may avoid deep conversations and intimate and emotional intimacy with people. Not to, we talking about the weather, sweater weather. We talking about the sun, sunscreen, right? We're having conversations where we are not even in the how am I feeling? I am here today. So I know that you're going through something. Would you like me to bring you some juice? Would you like to talk about your emotions? Not at this moment. I don't have any emotions. Okay, I'm a thug. Knowing damn well all you want to do is break down and cry. Please, somebody. If you could take this pain away from me, if you could figure out how to Men in Black boot me and then wake me up in about 6 months when all of this hurt and disgust is gone. But 6 months from now, because you haven't dealt with it, you're going to have to deal with it again. It can also cause you, the fear of vulnerability and emotional guarding can cause you to lose trust in others, even those who never harmed you, even those who never harmed you. The interesting thing about infidelity is that when you start questioning why, everybody get put in that box, right? And they have to survivor their way up out of there. And you can lose some wonderful friendships, some great relationships with people because not everybody's equipped to deal with somebody who's going through grief. Not everybody's equipped to deal with somebody who has cut off lines of communication. Some people take it very personal when you don't talk to them, and this is because you are triggering them as well, right? They're like, "Hey, I've been here with you this whole time. I never left you. Why would you do something like that?" And you're like, "Hey, I don't have time to deal with your emotions and my emotions at the same time." But they also may have a sense, feel a sense of betrayal because maybe they put time, a friend of the couple, things like that, trying to make sure that they're not picking sides, which can also play a huge part in why you would be kind of standoffish and losing trust in other people and feeling like you can't trust your decision making, like, hey, if we're together and that person betrayed me but we're all friends, you must not have good decision making either. And that's where the self-doubt, right? You start doubting other people, yourself, and it can be such a chaotic time in your life. And the idea of vulnerability may bring on more anxiety than comfort. You want me to tell you how I'm feeling. You want me to open up. You want me to talk about my deepest fears. I don't know if I trust you, babes, because I don't even trust me. Like, how you going to tell me, didn't you just go through this too? Instead of saying, oh, you went through this years ago. How did you get through it? How can you help me? Can we talk about this? Sometimes you turn on people because you're like, you feel so hurt and they keep touching the sore spot. And all you know how to do is like snap, bite, and then pull into yourself, right? And that is one of the places that can cause such emotional isolation. It can create a space where trusting yourself is dangerous, right? It is a no-go zone. And that is what we're working on. Talking about infidelity, yes, but really what we're talking about is learning how to trust yourself, building stronger, healthy boundaries for yourself, learning how to build self-esteem, learning how to build self-confidence, learning how to have healthy, open communication styles, and learning how to build emotional, mental health, healthy emotional mental health tools so that when things start to happen in your life that feel off, you aren't completely just out in the water with no raft. Another thing we can think about is shame, self-blame, and internalized guilt. Listen, I worked very, 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 very hard on this section for in my personal life when I went through it years ago because my thought was I didn't know better. It was not me. I didn't do it. It was not my fault. I need to I need to focus on the present, right? Because my thought had always, I can't go back and change that. I can't make whatever happened not happen. I don't have those skills. If I had those skills, I would be on an island somewhere growing fruit and vegetables, making buku dollars, not bothering anybody. You wouldn't even know who I was. Into who? Not what? Not doing it. Are we catching fish? No, I want to talk about it. But instead of placing responsibility on the betrayer, many of us internalize the betrayal. We make it about us. We go from, we go straight into I statements, right? I should have known better. Maybe I could have been better. Maybe I should have dressed more. Maybe I should have prayed more. Maybe I shouldn't have worked as much. Maybe I let myself go. Maybe I shouldn't have had kids. Maybe I shouldn't have got married faster. Maybe I shouldn't have. I was you. Listen, toxic self-talk erodes confidence and self-worth. Toxic self-talk erodes confidence and self-worth, right? So you have to shift the focus. Remember, we talked about earlier where you learn how to focus on the positive things about yourself. You learn how to have better conversations with yourself about the honesty of self-blame. When you start blaming yourself, maybe I should have done better. Maybe you should have done better. Maybe we have should have done better, right? Those are like the three, like the Dorito effect, right? And the truth is that we can't go back and change anything. But what can we do? We can really work on things that help us feel less afraid, things that help us feel less turmoil, things that help us feel less less, not less vulnerability, but things that help us feel more secure and sane because your sanity will be tested while you're going through things like this, right? You want to take some of that burden off yourself because when you have a deepened feeling of shame and inadequacy, it creates an open portal for negative self-talk, self-doubt, loss of self-confidence, loss of self-worth, to create places where anger fester, to create spaces where healing doesn't help. It doesn't hurt. I mean, where healing doesn't help and where you think that healing is hindering you from expressing yourself. But a true healed person still says how they feel. They still express how they feel. They still feel anger and they still have moments where rage kick in. You just learn how to pivot faster. You just learn how to create a safer environment for you to explode, right? In a safe place where you don't let the strapnel touch the people that are helping you heal. And then they allow you to collapse and then they help build you up. They remold the person that you want to be, but it's because you gave them a plan. Hey, if this thing happens to me, I need you to be there to help me do A, B, and C, right? That's what healing is all about. It's about planning it. It's about understanding yourself. And every plan isn't going to work. And you're going to have a backup plan. And then it's going to be the C, D, E, F, G, all of them. We need to do all of them. Resuscitation right now. That's what we need to do. So I want us to also think about emotional instability and heightened triggers. Because when you go through infidelity, you are emotionally hypersensitive. You will be triggered by songs, buildings, air, feathers, a laughter, somebody experiencing joy, a period. I mean, like, I am a girl, period. You will be triggered by so many things, right? And that's where you have to be very conscious of what you are feeding yourself, what you are putting into your body, how you are responding to everyday regular activities, making sure that you create a steady, predictable day for yourself for a little bit. And things are going to happen that's going to leave you emotionally exhausted. You're going to want to avoid a lot of situations. But for me, one of the best things that I did is that I detoxed my life. I shut down everything that was not giving me a heartbeat. And I mean, anything that was not paying a bill and or making sure that my family's bodies were working, I didn't focus on anything else. I just knew that I needed to really step back from as much as possible so that I could heal enough to start adding in people, places, things, songs, food, um, conversations, gatherings. I had to really work on those things. And it was exhausting and I was frequently tired. I could not eat. I could not sleep. I could not stay awake. I felt like an enraged toddler because nothing was happening. But it took a while and eventually it started getting better. But it started getting better because I knew I had to work on me. I knew that if I left the pain there too long, it was going to turn to stone and it was going to be very hard to like chip away at that. That does not happen for everybody. I don't even know where, I know where a lot of it came from. It came from my faith and it came from my ancestry. It came from my ancestry. I don't think that we would have made it as far as we have had we just given up. Like you have days when you are down and low, but then you fight to get back up. And I understood that that was something that I really dug into and tried to make sure that I focused on as much as I could. So also difficult making decisions, difficulty making decisions. It's the same thing as trusting yourself, right? When you go through betrayal, you overanalyze everything. You seek external validation for everything. You feel paralyzed in the face of uncertainty. I'm not sure if I should do this. Now, not everybody's like that. I will say for me, I got very certain about the things that I was going to allow in my life. And then there was a place where nothing was allowed. Like, these are the things that are allowed in right now. Everything else has to go. I my questioning and my doubt was really in my intimate space, right? It wasn't in my decision making for like I knew this is how I'm going to go to work. This is how I'm going to get the kids. This is how I'm going to make dinner, which my support system was the bomb.com. Blessings, blessings and more blessings because they fed and entertained and tried to keep things afloat as much as they could. And I don't think I would be where I am if I had not had them in my life, right? But that hesitancy and being able to make decisions for yourself can really dig such a trench of lack of self-trust. It can make it so that you don't trust yourself to make decisions and you don't trust other people to make decisions. And the hesitation to make decisions in emergency situations can really hurt not only yourself, but the people who you love and that are around you. And in that sense, we can roll right into loss of personal identity. I didn't lose who I was as a person. As Lisa, I did not lose who I was. As Lee, I did not lose who I was. As a wife, I was like, I already wasn't the greatest wife, so I don't know what the fuck that's supposed to look like. As a mother, oh, had that down locked. Okay. I used to tell people all the time, part of being in a relationship with me was that you had the best married baby mother, not the best wife. Not the best wife. I struggled with being a wife for a very long time because I did not know what that looked like. And I didn't know that you could like create your own rule book, even though we had been creating our own rule books for so long. But I really just had such a hard time understanding that as a wife, as a married person, that you guys get to define what happens in your relationship and nobody else gets to tell you what to do. I was like, what does that mean? When you say we get to just do what we want to do, like an adult? Mm, I need some examples of something. And I I was like, and TV ain't gonna get it. I need like a real person. I need to ask a question. Like I had a question. I'm gonna raise my hand. You look at me and be like, how can I help you? And I can be like, I don't know, start talking, and then maybe I'll have a question to ask you, right? But if your self-worth is closely tied to the relationships that you have, and that relationship or those relationships end in betrayal, you may experience a loss of identity. Question: who am I without this person? Was everything a lie? Man, let me tell you something. That question right there, me, I was like, I know who I am, but was everything else a goddamn lie? Like, how long has this lie been happening? Like, is it a mozzarella pull? Is it a provolone pull? Is it like a cheesy pull? I got questions because was it, I don't know. I don't feel like I trust everything. And it's an existential crisis because you start playing every moment together in your head. You start playing every non-moment together in your head. You start creating scenarios. You trying to piece together things. You've been MacGyvering, what is it? Murder She Wrote. You got all kinds of stuff. Another 48. You didn't turn into the best detective of no detectives, right? And it can lead you feeling disconnected. You don't have any interest. You don't want to talk about your hobbies. You don't want to talk about anything that brought you joy. You can struggle so hard to know the difference between your needs and your wants. And you have a hard time rebuilding a strong sense of self when you feel like it's an impossible task, right? You're like, I don't even know who who I'm supposed to be without this person. That's why it's so important. This sounds like a public service announcement, but for real, that's why it's so important to learn about yourself, like to invest in yourself, to ask people around you that you trust what they like about you if you don't know what you like about yourself. Ask them if they've seen you do anything that you seem to enjoy if you can't figure out the things that you enjoy. Ask them when they have conversations with you, what are the topics that you feel I talk about a lot, right? Sometimes you have to interview the people who are around you and that create safe spaces for you interview them about you and ask them questions. Sometimes when you feel insecure about who you are, or you're having an issue with self-esteem or self-confidence, it's because you don't see the value in the things that you bring to the relationships that you're in. And in order to do that, sometimes you have to ask really honest questions, very vulnerable questions, to see what other people like, to figure out, okay, so I spoke to three people. Two of the people said I like this thing. Two of the other people said I like this thing. Now what do I like? What thing makes me feel happy? What things bring me joy? What would I do by myself without anybody bothering me? What kind of passion, what thing lights up my eyes? And then you start really having to rewire yourself to focus on the things that bring you joy. I'm not taking away from the fact that you may be a mother, a wife, a father, a guardian, all of these things. However, without any of those titles attached to you, how would you describe yourself? It's such a loaded question. And especially when you lose trust in yourself, it can make it so that you are navigating this world with landmines instead of creating safe spaces for yourself, because you don't know the self that you're protecting, if that makes any sense. And that is just that is just this much. That's just this much of dealing with a loss of self-esteem and self-trust. It's crazy. But we're here and we're dealing with it, right? So now let's talk about how to rebuild self-trust after betrayal. Mm, that's a deep one.